Alright, what's going on, y'all? I'm back with another volume of Welcome to the Franchise, another quick volume here, just to tap into some of the stories that's been going on out there in the media, some things surrounding draft prospects and things like that. A lot of big news initially right now leading into free agency and some more combine talk, draft talk, and also some pro days probably gonna be coming up soon as well. So a lot of that been going on through this week in the last few days. And what I want to tap into with this volume right quick is some of the stories that have been coming out about a couple of the prospects, and mainly Shedeur Sanders, as we know. So let me tap into that and get to it right away here. So you got some critics of Shedeur Sanders, of course, saying that he's brash, arrogant, comes off a little bit too cocky or a little bit too confident. I don't know. That's what they've been saying out there and everything like that. But it's like, I mean, well, he is Deion Sanders' son, who's the most, you know what I mean, coming out as a draft prospect, and the way he's played his game throughout his whole career, and then after that as well, still being a an analyst in the media, his persona after he played football, and also being a coach, still carries that swag and is real cocky and everything like that. I mean, are we really that surprised that his son that was being coached by his father is gonna be that confident to where it comes off borderline cocky to people? Are we that surprised about it? No, not at all. But to me, all this shit sounds like it sounds like the same old media script that you see all the time. It's very on brand for the NFL around this time of year, and it was only a matter of time to me thinking it's only a matter of time until someone's gonna start talking out that same script. QB prospect is this and that and bloody bloody fucking blah. He's too cocky. He's too arrogant. I don't like how he comes off and everything. Oh, how he was raised with his family. Did he come from money? All of that shit. You're always gonna have this type of script that's put out there in the media mix with whatever QB, right? It's always some type of QB that has some red flags in the interview process, all that type of shit. But with this, it was expected. I seen it coming. It was just a matter of time. And this is why in one of my previous volumes I spoke about, him and Cam not wanting to throw at the combine and not want to go to some of the Senior Bowl games or whatever All-Star Bowl games, because it just opens up the door for them to pick them apart even more than they're gonna get picked apart already, especially with made-up stories and lies and shit like this, and especially when it comes to black quarterbacks, right? So this time around, it is a little bit different, right? And where it's a little bit different with these guys is because talking about Shedeur and Cam, but mainly Shedeur in this case, like, these guys got money with the NIL and everything like that. They made their money through their, whatever, name, image, and likeness, and their play and everything like that. Obviously, we all know now the players get paid, right? So when you're getting paid and you're doing your thing, you are going to have a level of confidence or professionalism with your confidence where you could talk that talk, where you could be like, listen, I know what I'm capable of because I've seen the results that I produce, and I'm being compensated for it. So, being trusted to be compensated for what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure I'm on point and the most confident in my preparation to actually win and get shit rocking, right? And then in Shedeur's case, saying he came from money, obviously his father, Deion Sanders, who made a lot of money in his day in his career. And then there's a narrative out there talking about he carries himself in a way where he may not need football, or they don't like celebrity quarterbacks that already came from money, already got money, and act like they don't need football. Honestly, that's a bullshit narrative to me, and it just sounds like a lot of hate as usual surrounding Shedeur, even before he got to Colorado when he's playing at Jackson State, especially right when he transferred to Colorado and started playing there. A lot of hate surrounding him and his father as a coach and everything like that. That's exactly what all this shit sounds like, because to me, it's a bullshit narrative to be like, oh, it doesn't seem like he really needs football like that. You know what I mean? And all that shit, or he don't care like that. This is a kid who been around football his whole life, obviously, with his father being a professional athlete. and the main sport being football. And he's coached by his father also in that sport, in football. It's not about if he needs it or not. It doesn't matter about, okay, he came from money, whatever, all that shit. He loves the game. Obviously, he loves the game because there's other kids out there in whatever industry, whatever sport. Just because their father did it and they were at the top level of doing it, doesn't mean they're gonna love it, and they may want to do something totally different. And then you still have cases where those kids do the shit that their father was known for, and they try and force themselves in it just because their father was doing it, and they're not as good. I don't really think that's the case here. Don't get me wrong, athleticism-wise, I don't think Shedeur's on the same level as his father, which the good thing I like is he shows some humility and a little bit of, he could joke on himself a little bit and say, hey, I got my mom's athleticism there. And he also had an interview saying, I know there's a lot of things that I could get better at. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm still capable of carrying a franchise, and I'm still capable of working on my game to get better year by year so I could be the finished product that I know I want to see myself to be way down the line. So I like hearing that from him, which makes me also be like, no, all these narratives out here is bullshit, it's lies, it's just a bunch of hate, of course, as he's been receiving the whole time and everything. And he doesn't need football thing because he came from money, or, don't draft quarterbacks or don't draft certain players because they come from money. That narrative kind of got to die down. I understand it's kind of a balanced narrative because on one hand there are dudes that are more hungry because of where they come from and how they came up background wise. There's some dudes that are less hungry because they came up maybe a little bit more in a stable situation, or they came from money. But it also flips as well. There's some dudes that come from money, they just really love the sport and they really put their time into the craft and they end up being great at it. And then there's dudes that come from maybe a lower level background, financial and socially wise with their family, and then they just want to hit a lick, and after that they don't give a fuck about putting work in on anything they want to do in their life. So that narrative kind of, you can't really stand on one or the other so firmly. It's kind of a balanced out narrative that you can't always put in there. I think that Shedeur loves football. I think he wants to get better, as he said, and this is his craft that he really wants to work at. All this other shit, it just sounds like a whole bunch of fucking player-hating ass dickheads, like a Mike Florio type motherfucker just saying this type of shit. Because he the type of motherfucker, when you see him speak or you see his articles, even from back in the day, he just sound, it's like, yo, this motherfucker just sound like a hater, or just sound like, you know what I'm saying? He just be on some dickhead shit. I don't think it was Mike Florio. I'm just using that as an example and shit, but it's somebody out there that it just sounds like hate. But then the other thing about it too is that I think whoever is putting this narrative out here, if it's an executive or a scout or a GM or something, I think it's just they don't like that these kind of QBs are in this position, and they're confident about being in a position or working their way to the position, despite the fact that they may not be as polished in their game as other past top prospects that may have seemed more deserving and are more agreeable in drafts past and prospects past, which is also bullshit to me, because there have been some of those dudes that they may look a little bit more polished coming out, and it's definitive they're a 1, 2, or 3 pick and everything like that, and they don't amount to shit. They be bust. They be whack, and they're the ones that are gonna be like, yeah, he's really agreeable, and he doesn't come off brash or cocky, or he doesn't make me feel uncomfortable, and he seems like he's gonna be really low key and not be a problem, should not be a headache, as they like to put out there in the media a lot. And those dudes end up being bust too. So I think that narrative is also bullshit, or that idea is also bullshit as well, just because they may not be as polished right now as previous quarterbacks in previous drafts. The second part of this with the narrative is I think it's still the script that they want to put out there, and what people call smoke screens for the prospect to fall, to a spot where a team would rather get them. I call this shit a media finesse, or some kind of finesse, whatever you want to call it, but I call it a media finesse because stories like this only come out on these major networks and these major websites and everything like that for a reason, where a team wants a QB that they like to fall to them. You know what I mean? So the stories like this will work in their favor. So that's the only reason why these kind of, not the only reason, but that's one of the main reasons, especially more recently, that certain stories like this come out, and they're trying to see if those other teams are gonna take the bait and be like, nah, pass on this dude, pass on this dude. So maybe he drops to number 5, or number 6, and they're like, all right, we got our guy and shit. So whoever did that, whoever knows who and is friends with this person, that person, and put that story out there, hey, good look, because we got our guy now and shit. You know what I mean? So I think that this time around it's mainly that. But there's still, let's be real, there's still a little bit of hate out there. I'm not gonna be banging the table like it's something so crazy this year, because it's 2025 now. I would think that most people have evolved. So I'm gonna put, if I had to do 60-40, I would put 60% on, yeah, this immediate finesse, so that they could see, okay, how far could Shedeur drop so that we could probably get him here. You know what I'm saying? And then 40%, just a bunch of hate and a bunch of bullshit and lies, because motherfuckers be hating on Dion and motherfuckers be hating on his son. So that's how I would kind of split it there. And another thing to follow this topic as well is, I think motherfuckers need to, stop saying, they keep saying, yo, J.J. McCarthy was in this draft, or if Bo Nix was in this draft, or if Arch Manning was in this draft class, they'd be the number 1 or the top prospects over Cam and Shedeur. They need to dead all of that shit, dead all that talk right now, because it does not change the fact that these two dudes earn their spots in this draft. J.J. McCarthy is not in this draft. Arch Manning most definitely is not in this fucking draft. Bo Nix is not in this draft. Them niggas, him and J.J. McCarthy went the year before. Bo Nix, you could say is better than these guys because we seen what he's proved in playing in the NFL. We seen that. J.J. McCarthy, we still don't know what the fuck that nigga's gonna be in the NFL. We seen what he did in college, and even that wasn't a big enough sample size to make motherfuckers be like, yeah, J.J. McCarthy, even with Cam Ward and Shedeur taking their first snaps, preseason snaps, he's still better than both of them. You can't say that because he had a nice little preseason. I'm not hating on J.J. McCarthy at all. I'm just saying the book's still out on him also, and I think that even if he was in this draft, I think that Cam and Shedeur will be better than him because of their sample size and what they've shown on film at the position. That showed a lot more than what you've seen from J.J. McCarthy. And I think that J.J. McCarthy still has a chance to work out. We'll see. But, what previous volumes that I put out there, I already said how I feel about that. They should bring Darnold back and still let him, try and learn, especially coming off a knee injury, and then he could probably be really, really good down the line and in the future. But the other thing, too, talking about, if Arch Manning was in this draft, he'd be a generational prospect and be a top prospect. You don't know that shit. This motherfucker is still playing in college. You know what I mean? We don't know what he's going to do in the NFL. Yes, because his name is Manning. He has the bloodlines. He has the DNA to be great. Yeah, there's a potential chance he'd be good. But let's not take away the fact that both Cam Ward, and Shedeur Sanders, they went through the grind and all the years through college with the eligibility that they were able to use, transferring and all this shit, criticism and being weak in some spots in their game. They worked their way up to earn being the top QBs in this draft. Of course, teams are always QB needy and everything like that. And who's to say that even if they were in last year's draft, they wouldn't fall somewhere between the middle to the bottom of the first round to actual decent to good teams where they don't have to be the fucking savior or be a quote-unquote generational talent. Which gets me to my next thing here before I wrap this up, right? Motherfuckers need to stop throwing around this generational talent term all the time so loosely. They need to stop doing that shit, especially when it comes to quarterback. That shit needs to be dead now, especially in the last few years. Half of the motherfuckers they say that generational talents they've been saying this shit about for the last few years, they all turn out to be bums, or they turn out to just be aight. Like, oh, aight, he aight, or he kind of nice, or like he had a nice couple seasons here or there. But they was not generational talents and they'd be like, no, you got to pick. You can't go wrong. You got to pick him number 1. You got to pick him number 2. You got to pick him number 3. They're generational talents. This ceiling is so high. Stop throwing that term out. That shit is dead too. because half of those motherfuckers you say that shit about end up being fucking bums. Or like I said, they just be aight. Or they had a couple good games. Or a couple or 1.5 good seasons. And then they just bummed up after that. The Trevor Lawrences out there. The Zach Wilsons. Tua. Trey Lance. Trubisky. And I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe no one was saying they were generational talents, but they were definitely picked really, really high and talking them up like, yeah, their ceiling is so high and all of this shit or whatever. And they turned out to be nothing. While the dudes that was picked like 7 to 15, maybe in the second round, like a Jalen Hurts, them motherfuckers ended up being the ones going to the playoffs constantly and getting into Super Bowls and winning Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying? Not like, and I know motherfuckers were saying this about Sam Darnold. I'm happy to see it. I'm very happy to see Sam have a little bit of a reclamation in his career, have a good bounce back in the right system after being bounced around with different teams. And he was thought of to be a generational prospect, kind of, or a high ceiling going to the Jets, but he got drafted to the Jets. And it's not his fault. It's a terrible organization. It was only bound for him to fucking fail out there. Then you get traded to the Panthers, another terrible organization where that shit was bound to happen. Then you get with the right people, like the Niners, and then you get with the right people, like the Vikings. Injury happens. So, we don't want injuries to happen to anyone, but sometimes you got to get lucky. Certain breaks happen your way for a year, so motherfuckers can see that you actually are capable of at least just playing or being good, but not generational. Same thing with Caleb right now. They were saying all that shit, and he did. It don't look like it. But like I said, it's just rookie year. I just be saying I didn't see it while he was at Oklahoma. I seen a little bit of this, a little bit of that at USC, but didn't see all the way. I didn't see it in his rookie year. But there's still time for him. But I'm just gonna say that this generational talent shit, that shit is dead. Stop talking about that about every QB and all that. Like, that shit is dead. But that's going to wrap this quick volume up, and welcome to the franchise for me out here today. Y'all out there, be easy.